Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, Luka Doncic says he could use a break. Can hardly blame him. We'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, but probably not this one. No matter how or where you get your podcast, this one's always going to be free, never behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube we're about 32,000 subscribers to the channel. Thank you to all the new people who have found us and have joined. If you are so inclined, please subscribe to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's on Spotify or Apple or whatever platform you choose. Andy, it is All-Star break time for the Lakers. I had completely forgot. I'm so Lakers-centric, I forgot there actually were games being played on Thursday night, but none of them are my business. The Lakers are on their break, and it does seem like for a lot of the guys on the team, it comes none too soon.
These guys, JJ talked about after the loss Wednesday night in Utah, that everybody could use a bit of time off, and JJ was including himself because, as he noted, his break is going to be spent doing really fun things like filing insurance claims and trying to find a permanent apartment because he lost his house in the wildfires in LA. So that is something that he's been negotiating while, doing his job, being a father, being a husband, like all the stuff that you have to do in your daily life. The players have been going, especially of late. I mean, let's forget how they approached Wednesday's game in Utah, but the last month or so, they've been playing pretty hard for the most part. And
pretty well, it should be noted.
They've been playing well, but they've also been playing hard. And they've sometimes been playing shorthanded, and everybody could use some time away from the game. In the case of guys like Gabe Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith and Vando, they could use the time to continue getting their bodies right, hopefully getting themselves to a place where they are done with minutes restrictions. And then there is the question of Luka, who talked a little bit after the loss in Utah about how he might be kind of his own category for this in ways that we had not necessarily thought about until giving some more credence to the things he said afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things, like it is a really good way. You mentioned JJ Redick. Like, it's easy to forget these are people with lives and emotions and other things. And like, think about some of the most, the times in your life with the biggest upheaval and what that does, just kind of, you get these, the rush of excitement. You go out, you're making a big move, you start a new job, and then like a week or 10 days go by and you just kind of hit a wall. And it looked to me a little bit like Luka, especially when you factor in some of his comments. We'll get to him in a second. It looked to me a little bit like he just kind of hit a wall, whether it was a physical wall, a mental wall, a combination of both. This was not somebody who was expecting to move, and the shock of that, it is hard to think of something with more job security than being a star under 28 years old in the NBA who has not asked for a trade. Like, you are about as secure as you can possibly be in any job, in any sport, whatever. And that was cracked for Luka. He was suddenly gone from this place where he expected to be for another few years at the very least. Where are you going? You're going to LA. You got to pack everything. It's like, you have no preparation time for this. It sucks a lot of energy out of you without you even knowing it.
Yeah, and these were some comments that Lucas said after the loss in Utah. Quote, I think we can go very far. Obviously, today I felt very rusty. Only 2 games in from my injury, turnovers, missed free throws. I can do way better. But now I think we're approaching this break, so we got to rest. For me, I think it's more of a mental rest than anything else, but still got to work. I'm excited about this break and can't wait to get back to play. He also talked about more opportunity to practice 5-on-5 and stuff like that. But it kind of dawned on me just, and you as well, we were talking about this before the show, just the idea of Luka getting sideswiped by this deal, what that does for him in terms of turmoil and things being unexpected, and all of a sudden you're dealing with this stuff on your plate that's like, wait, what? Like, I had been in the process of purchasing another house in Dallas, just like reinforces that he's stupid rich, but also like I really was laying down roots in this city that I envisioned playing my entire career in. And, that is a lot to wrap your head around when all of a sudden you go from the guy that a franchise is seemingly trying to clear a path and build everything around to play 15 to 20 years, just like the last superstar, Dirk Nowitzki, who quite literally passed that metaphorical baton to you. His last season was Luka's rookie season, but also too, like, you're coming off an injury that you're still rehabbing your way back from, and so much dirty laundry has been messaged from the franchise that you thought you were going to spend the rest of your life, the rest of your career with, or I guess your basketball life, your basketball image, you're a lifer with them. They are messaging that you are this out of shape, lazy, fat ass that can't be relied on, that is basically going to, bad habits his way into an unreliable prime that is not worth hitching our financial wagon to.
Exactly.
And not that I know Luka had been aware of the narrative of him and conditioning and that stuff, because everybody knew about it. But
it's not entirely unfair. Like,
Sure.
He does need to improve his conditioning and all of that stuff.
But it is unheard of for a franchise to do this with a player like Luka, who isn't even 26, who has done nothing remotely close to, signaling he wants out, much less asking. Like, that is, like I said, a sucker punch, and that takes some processing.
Yeah. Quick reminder: today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I mean, it's a little, Andy, like, you think you are, you're married, think you're pretty happily married. No marriage is perfect. There are always ups and downs, but you kind of know, you think you're on good footing. And not only did your wife leave you the next day, like, the first thing she does is go to TMZ and start just airing all your laundry. Because a few people are like, the guy's been out for 2 months. Why does he need a break now? I'm like, that actually, I think, makes it, from a physical standpoint, think of the first workout you do after you haven't done it in a little while. Get out there and you're like, all right, I'm feeling good. I'm doing stuff or whatever. It's the second workout that really kicks your ass. And by NBA standards, that's where Luka was. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the next segment. Like, he has not only has he not played, there is an element of, adjustment and all of this stuff. And I think there is going to be, because the stakes of this trade are so enormous for the Lakers, and not just in the long term, because, like, if the Lakers were in like 10th, 11th and really didn't look like they could do anything, everybody would say, okay, this is a long-term deal. We'll see.
Kind of like the team that just traded Luka. Like, they are in some trouble.
That is a problem that's a Nick problem, not a me problem. The expectations would be different. Like, I think the patience level for Luka, people would be worried, but it'd be like, well, what kind of shape is he gonna come in after next off season? What does that all look? But the problem is, and I use problem in air quotes. The problem is the Lakers before the Dončić trade and for, some games after, were winning a ton. They put themselves right up near near that top tier in the Western Conference, and all of a sudden look like a team that could, do something this year. And so there's an intense amount of concern as to the type of form Luka is in, and what's a reasonable amount of patience to have? That's the question I have for you, Andy, next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to DoorDash. Thanks to DoorDash's Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. Anytime a player scores 50 or more in a game, look towards Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if you need some help, some guidance. During the 24-25 regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. So after an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door, or maybe you're staying up watching highlights, you need a midnight snack, use the Dash Pass to grab something while saving big, or you can get a little bit of lunch on the go, and you can get your favorite meals with 0 delivery fees, reduced service fees, and you get to save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and get ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have, though, an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more.
So, the comments, Andy, on the YouTube show as we do this live range from everything from, I'm assuming, WM Kuchia, Utah elevation was a factor for Luka. He looked winded most of the night. Like, let's show some grace to this guy. To Drew, yeah, we're screwed. There's a little bit, and then you go down a little further, Mr. TD. Luka better get on that treadmill during the break. I think
that might actually be true.
And Luka said as much. He's got to keep working. It's not that he's that he gets to have the break off, but I think there is an element of rest, of continuing to get the body right, rehabbing and doing all that stuff, and getting into a little better shape. Somebody else pointed out that Dončić has really, he played 100 games last year, didn't really have an opportunity to heal up, came back, and I think this is where some of the relationship, at least from Nico Harrison's POV, seems to have gotten worse. Is this year has been kind of limited by that, and the performance was a little bit down. I understand that. When they come back from the break, though, Andy, straight into a bunch of games that are going to be really challenging, high leverage, all that stuff. How much wiggle room are you going to be able to give Luka, just on a personal level, before you'd start to get concerned maybe over his performance for this year? Like, what do you mean by he comes out of the break like slow, not playing, not putting up the numbers that you would expect from Luka?
Say that again. As far as what does that mean?
Like, how concerned are you going to be if he doesn't play well coming out of the break? How long would he have to not play well before you would start to worry about what's going on for this year with Luka and the team?
I guess to some degree it depends on, are they winning? I mean, if they're winning these games with Luka still clearly either working himself back into shape or trying to get himself more synergized with his teammates, I would actually, in a lot of ways, feel even more hopeful about the team. Like, I'd feel more optimistic. Like, if they are managing to win games with the superstar that they just traded for still looking like 60 to 70% of what you expect from him, as long as you eventually shift to the 85, 90, hopefully 100% of Luka, I got no issues. I mean, like it probably depends, I guess. Also, like, are the struggles more just lack of familiarity, or does he really seem after like 3 weeks to be laboring physically? That starts feeling concerning, because then you worry, like, is this something that by say April is
Right.
still bothering
Is the
him?
leg still bothering him?
Right.
Is
Because,
he
like,
physically not right?
right, if we're a few weeks out of the All-Star break and this is something that is still bothering him, or he still does not seem like himself, then it starts raising that question of, is he going to be himself this season? I mean, I forget the idea of, Dallas was right. They knew something they were the only ones that saw the truth. Like, I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm just talking about this season. Like, that calf is a problem for him this season that he is not going to be able to overcome. But a lot of this, in terms of my actual panic, is going to be very dependent on, tell me the score at the end of the game.
I look at it too, like, outside looking in, there's going to be a tremendous emphasis on Luka's numbers because they have been so garish over the course of his career. Last year nearly averaging a triple double, and just the level of performance. But the flip side is he's playing with a guy now who kind of performs and puts up numbers in a similar way. Obviously in LeBron. And then when you start to factor in Austin Reeves, I think the ideal would probably be for all three of those guys in the aggregate, maybe to kind of have the same, impact or numbers or whatever. But, like, what I'm saying? Like, everybody can do a little bit less to get a little bit more from the entire group. Luka's got, we talk about LeBron getting a lot of help from Luka, obviously, and being able to give up a lot of that burden to him. That also applies to Dončić. And it's not that he's never played. I mean, the guy played with Kyrie Irving. It's not like he's never played with other guys who can handle the ball and lighten that burden or whatever. But there is an opportunity, depending on how the Lakers do stuff. LeBron is kind of unique in that way. For everyone to kind of benefit from this, to not have to carry such a huge load. I think that's the ideal thing that the Lakers would want in that sort of 3 lead guys that they have on the roster.
Great players make life easier for other great players. That's why even the greatest players want other great players alongside them, and very few seem determined to go it on their own. Like, Kobe was the most supremely confident athlete I think you and I have ever certainly been around on a day in, day out basis in our career. Kobe was not so confident that he thought he was going to be able to win a championship with Smush Parker and Kwame Brown as 2 of his 5 starters. Like, as great as Kobe was, and if you want to say that the balance of help provided, or the balance of who made who better, Kobe made Pau better, Pau made Kobe better. If you want to say the balance was more tilted towards Kobe made Pau better, fine, because Kobe was a better player than Pau. He had more of an ability to help bring out the better in Pau. He had more to teach Pau. But make no mistake about it, Pau helped Kobe be a better player. He helped Kobe be a more efficient player. He frankly helped Kobe be a better leader on the court. Like, all of these things happened because Pau was there, which helped bring out a better version of Lamar Odom, who maybe wasn't at the level of those guys, but he was a really, really good player. Like, that's the key to all of this, is these guys all help each other out.
Before we go to the break, and we want to talk a little bit about this new.
Sorry, Schmidtke Original says, but nobody can make Alex Len better. Please, got it.
There's the exception to every rule, I suppose. You guys played 1 game. I mean, look, Andy and I were not exactly raising the expectations for people around Alex Len, but the guy played 1 game. As he said afterwards, he didn't even know the plays. give him a little bit of a break. Anyway, so Luka's running and on the treadmill, and Alex Len's studying the playbook over the break. So now we know what everyone's doing. We'll talk a little bit about the All-Star game and some of the format changes coming up, because this is a time of year where everybody gets hysterical. But it is worth noting, Andy, that the apparently the Lakers and Hornets are going to a mock trial of some sort to sort out
with Jay Reinhold. Shout out to the Arrested Development fans out there if you get it.
I would love to do Locked on Arrested Development. There's nobody thinks there's even like a 5% chance that Charlotte comes out of this when I really want to be in the room when they do this. Are the Hornets going to go put the system on trial? What are we doing here?
That's, you've known me a very long time, Brian. You know that there are very few things in life I love more than just the opportunity to see the system put on trial. And the idea that this would become we're going to talk about the All-Star break. This should be the main event of the All-Star break, this mock trial to settle this rescinded trade between the Lakers and the Hornets. It's horribly unfair to Mark Williams because all of his business gets put out there. But in terms of entertainment value, it would be absolutely fascinating to see. Lion King, is asking, can you redo the deal? No, you cannot redo the deal. Trade.
No, but the NBA could, in theory, force the kind of
force new compensation,
to basically kind of void the Lakers' failed physical and say they shouldn't have done that. There was dirty pool going on here, and force the trade through. They are not going to do that because the precedent that it sets is so bad for the league in terms of questioning the doctors, questioning there are kind of accepted norms and procedures around the league where GMs, in terms of dealing with each other, understand what the rules are. There's fluidity to them and all that stuff. But the last thing the league wants to do is become the arbiter of whether or not a doctor is being too conservative in their in their evaluations of players, especially in deals this significant. So it's not going to happen. But I just Charlotte's got to go in there and be like, this guy is a ticking time bomb. He is a disaster waiting to happen. And then they're going to lose, still be on their team. It's like the worst version of baseball arbitration ever. Because at the end of the day, in arbitration, one team, we're going to give him $6 million. The player wants $8 million and they get $7 million. And everybody's kind of fine with it at the end. This is how do you go back to Charlotte after this? So yeah, I do feel bad for him. I also feel bad for the league, which is saddled with what I believe, Andy, is an unsolvable problem with the All-Star game. I know you agree. We'll explain next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same game parlay, and you're going to love the live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether you're backing the team that you love, presumably the Lakers if you're here, or maybe the Mavericks if you're salty, which probably makes you a Laker fan now, for a late game rally, or picking a player to hit a clutch three. Again, Lakers and Mavericks fans right now, I think, are both rooting for Luka to do that for very different reasons. You're never going to feel like you missed your chance. The app's really easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It's just $5. That's all it takes. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Reminder, subscribe to the Locked On Lakers newsletter. You go to lockedondaily.com, and when you're there, you click on Locked On Lakers. You get this show and all kinds of analysis from around the league delivered right to you. If you're in the chat, like right now, and you are not a subscriber to it, you're already online. Just go ahead, go to lockedondaily.com. You can keep watching the show and sign up for the newsletter, and then tell us in the chat. We'll be very excited. We'll probably say your name on the radio.
The radio,
the proverbial radio, Andy. So
some call it the podcast.
Yeah, but like, people say, I heard my name. It's like, it's, whatever. It's not neither here nor there. The All-Star game, you would talk about mock trial. Let's talk about the debate club. I will posit this, Andy. The All-Star game is broken and irrelevant at this point. Am I right or wrong?
I was about to say I got nothing. It's completely the All-Star game. First of all, I don't know exactly what happened, but news today broke that the Steph Curry, Sabrina Ionescu rematch that, last year, the two of them squared off in a 3-point shooting contest. That was really
super fun. Yeah.
It was incredibly entertaining. It's a low bar to clear, but it was a genuine high point of the weekend, like really fun. And there have been plans or ideas about trying to build it up bigger, like maybe having Ionescu and Caitlin Clark compete against Steph and Clay, or, I don't know, the 3-point shooting equivalent of mixed doubles, like whatever. But they were trying to blow this thing out even bigger. And there were a lot of reported issues with it, including apparently Caitlin Clark not wanting to make her debut in the NBA All-Star Weekend. She wanted to do her first 3-point contest in the WNBA All-Star Weekend. But there was a quote from the league in explaining that the Curry and Ionescu thing was not going to happen. We weren't able to land on a plan that we thought would raise the bar off last year's special moment. This is from NBA spokesman Mike Bass. We all agreed not to proceed and will instead keep the focus on the All-Star Sunday's new format. Look, again, I don't know all the true specifics. Some of these explanations may be PC or PR trying to prevent anyone from looking bad. But again, this thing with Steph and Sabrina was hands down the best thing from last year. And if they end up not repeating it simply because they were either too obsessed with trying to make it better and they allowed better to be the enemy of already pretty great.
Or just do it again. See if it's good the second time.
Right. Or because, and I really hope it's not this, they don't want to detract from this new format because they're so desperately obsessed with trying to make the All-Star game relevant. The F are we doing, people?
I see whether you're talking about Caitlin Clark, who I understand, like on the one hand, it's great exposure. It's good for the league. It's good for the WNBA to drive interest that way. But I also feel I understand her perspective here of like, I want to use my star power to promote my league in a non-gimmicky way. Like and I get that. I don't think she's entirely wrong.
I'm not your mascot. I think in some ways is what she's trying to say.
And, I even understand a little bit the NBA worrying that if we just tried to do another 3-point shooting contest with Steph and Sabrina, it wouldn't, like, somebody's cold, doesn't look good. It's a nothing burger and that. I understand all of these things, but to me, this whole conversation is a symptom of the larger problem that the NBA has, which is the weekend is just kind of dumb now. And it's
obsolete.
It's obsolete. Right. And it's not the NBA's fault. The NBA All-Star game sucks. The baseball All-Star game sucks. The Pro Bowl is the one event that the NFL, even the NFL, like completely scrapped it. It was such a stupid.
And they are arrogant enough to think that they can sell anything.
And they don't even try to stage an actual football game anymore.
No.
And so the NHL is doing, I think it's actually happening as we record, like the NHL is doing like some Four Nations thing or whatever. It might work, it might not. I have not kept up with the NHL All-Star game and whether or not people are pleased, but they've been they've been doing a lot of weird format stuff for years in the NHL to kind of experiment with new things. The problem with the NBA All-Star game is that this format of All-Star games is 100% obsolete. When we were kids, and Andy and I grew up in, not to completely date ourselves in a dicey media era, Andy and I grew up in the 80s.
Tell the truth, we were born in the 2000s.
That's right.
We've just aged exceptionally poorly.
You look horrible. I look great.
You don't look so good, yourself.
I connect with the youths in ways. I'm considered pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
among them.
Yeah. Gen Z just gravitates towards you.
They really do.
Yeah.
And so, when we were kids, though, the All-Star game was legitimately, whether baseball or hockey or basketball, that was the time you got to see player X on TV, or that guy compete against your team or your favorite players. You got to, kind of get excited because with baseball, for example, like there was always no matter how terrible your team was, there was only one guy who was on the team. Now I can watch every game in the NBA every single night. I can follow every player online in fantasy, on YouTube, on TikTok, or whatever. I can follow every player in every game in every way. There are no secrets. There are no guys that I never get to see. And the game just isn't the same anymore. And that's okay. It's okay.
There's another piece of this too. The players don't need this anymore.
Correct.
Like there is this narrative that, back in the early 2000s or the 90s or the 80s, these guys were just so much more competitive, that they took this All-Star game seriously because that's just how they were wired. No, for like 75, 80% of the players in this might be their biggest chance to be seen. Like, if you were an all-star from Sacramento or Charlotte or Milwaukee, or basically anyone that wasn't a Laker, a Knick, a Bull, a Celtic, or if one of these medium-sized market teams happened to be great like that year, maybe Utah, for example, during the Malone-Stockton era, they were a pretty high-profile team. But for these other, if you were then Vancouver Grizzly, this was your chance to be seen. This was your chance to build up popularity. So maybe all of a sudden the Cokes and the Gatorades and the McDonald's of the world and whatever, maybe start thinking about using you. This was huge for you back then. So damn right.
TWA, Howard Johnson's, all those companies will be coming after you.
Kodak. This is why the game mattered in a lot of ways.
Burger Chef.
This was an opportunity for players that isn't there anymore. Now, to be honest, it is a pain in the ass for all the players who end up there that weekend. I'm sure the recognition still means something to them. Everyone loves to be honored for their greatness, but the game's a pain in the ass, and it's a pain in the ass. And you're the only people, all the great ones, you're the only ones who don't get to take a break. If anything, the other 450 scrubs, they're the ones who ought to be playing this weekend.
The really bad players shouldn't have to do it. It's the guys who are not meeting expectations. The All-Star game should be a punishment weekend.
Yes.
For Paul George, basically.
Yes.
George,
Embiid, anybody who's considered underperforming this season.
You got to go play.
You should have to do this.
I think too, and I wonder this, because there is a lot of romanticizing of the quality of play, for example. People get mad at me. I say all the time, the quality of today's game, of just the aesthetically, it's more, me at least, it's more enjoyable to watch. The athletes are better, the skill sets are higher, all that stuff, than watching the NBA in the 90s. And I know people point to Jordan and the amazing stuff he was doing. Don't do that. Go to the average games against the average teams. I think there's a little bit of romanticizing about how competitive the All-Star game was in 2003 or 1996 and all that. And I bet they were more competitive than they are now. But I remember growing up being like, nobody plays hard until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Now it's just nobody plays hard during the fourth quarter too. Right. It's like the last 2.5 minutes. So some of this is just revisionist history too.
Just stop. If you're the NBA, stop trying to desperately save this thing.
Not going to happen.
Or accept that it's just like a barnstorming exhibition game where people are just screwing around, and stop obsessing. Stop listening to the online commentary.
Yeah.
Just stop.
I'd rather they name all-stars to the team, because that actually matters. Like who is and isn't an all-star matters.
Yes.
And then like stage like a pickleball tournament or flag football,
whatever.
Guys,
have them play cards. I would love to watch
the game. That'd be fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
or have them play horse, like whatever. Like if there's a competition where there's no risk of getting hurt, and it's not going to tax them for the remaining 30 games or so of the season when things really start heating up, they will compete. That's actually why the 3-point shooting contest is typically pretty good. These guys can really compete, get into it, and you're not going to get hurt. That's the secret.
Ping pong tournament. They would go nuts for something like that.
Sure.
All right. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over about 32,000 subscribers to the channel. It is a holiday weekend. I think we're going to do a show on Monday. Probably.
We are.
Sunday into Monday.
We are.
But everybody enjoy your holiday weekend. No games to break down for a little while, which is exciting for everyone, especially Luka Doncic. We'll see everyone Monday.